Hi, I'm Jenny Rosenblum with Jennie Reads in Texas, and I am a featured blogger with the Coastal Magic Convention that will be happening in February in Daytona Beach. And today I have the honor of interviewing Mona Shroff, who is an incredible romance writer. I recently finished two of her books, which you can check out. There'll be links below this. One is The Second First Chance, and the other is Matched by Masala, both of which kind of blew me away. It's been a long time since I read Harlequin, and what a nice surprise. They have advanced quite a bit, and I was impressed. I'm going to turn it over to Mona now to introduce herself, and then we'll get on to some questions.
Hi, I'm Mona Shroff, and first of all, thank you so much, Jenny, for featuring me in two reviews as well on your blog, which is so amazing. I did check that out, as well as this interview. I'm really excited about it. I write contemporary romance. I have two lines that I've been writing for. I write for HQN as well as Special Edition, and those of you who are familiar with Harlequin know that Special Edition is one of the category romances. I have a series, Once Upon a Wedding series, which we'll get to a little bit later. I work as an optometrist. I have a rescue dog. Both of my kids are grown and gone. My daughter's getting married in 2 months. So it's all about weddings right now. And not that it's not usually with my books, but it's literally I'm either writing or helping plan a wedding. So that's where we are right now. Hope everybody's having a great summer.
Thanks. So let's start with the Once Upon a Wedding series. It was charming, it was delightful, it was realistic. What inspired you to create stories centered around weddings?
Like weddings, in romance, like that's always sort of your happily ever after is like they get married at the end, or there's a proposal, or even the happily for now, we assume that they're going to be together, forever. Also, weddings are very romantic, and Indian weddings in particular are many days, and there's a lot of ritual, but there's also a lot of fun, and a lot of romance can be added into it. So I thought it'd be fun to do, when I was asked to do a series, I thought it'd be fun to do a series that not necessarily always ended in a wedding. I mean, it ends in a happily ever after, of course, but that somehow touched a wedding. So the Matched by Masala book you read is the second in the series, and that is a story about a caterer and a dessert, like a pastry chef, basically, a chef and a pastry chef, and she is his sister's best friend, and he has always been in love with her. And so the way that they touch a wedding is that they're caterers. The first book, the couple had to fake being married for his sister's wedding. The one after Matched by Masala is a runaway bride. So there's the theme there is that somewhere you have touched a wedding. That way we can have a little bit of fun with the wedding, but not necessarily always with the bride and groom. Sometimes the bride and groom, but sometimes it's sort of like the staff, the friends, the family, that are actually there.
The whole series can be read as standalones, right? They're entwined.
Yes, they can be read as standalones. The further I get into the series, the more characters I have, and certain characters can make visits into other stories as a caterer, for example, or as the runaway, the bride who ran away, and then there's another story about the groom who was left behind, that kind of thing. So they definitely kind of know each other. They don't always like each other from book to book, but that's always a little fun. They do make little cameos. Yeah.
Can you give us some insight into the process of crafting a romance? Like, what elements do you think are essential to make a compelling love story?
So I think one of the things that I think is really essential, and one of the things that I work on and that my editor always pushes me towards, because it's not actually a strength of mine, is causing tension between the two main characters. When we pick up a romance, we already know how it's going to end. We know that they're going to be together. So to me, it's really important to make their journey together, the book that you're going to read, interesting, compelling, and make you want to read it. Like if you're in the first chapter or the second chapter and there's no tension, there's no stakes, there's nothing other than a conversation that could keep these two apart, then what is your investment in reading it if you already know that they're going to be together at the end? So I do feel like, and sometimes, it is a conversation that's keeping them apart, but then I will make sure that there is a very good reason that they're not having that conversation. Just like in real life, sometimes if communicated, things would be better, but we have fears, we have anxieties, we have backstory, that keeps us from doing even what we know is right for us in that moment. So I feel like in a romance, you really want to make sure that there's really good tension. Banter is fun if you can do it. Banter's a little harder is even harder than tension than me, but like, you want to see these characters kind of have fun together or get on each other's nerves for a while.
So how did you start writing with Harlequin Special Edition?
So my debut was with HQN, and my debut was Then Now Always, and that is a Secret Baby book. And I was with an editor at HQN, and Susan Littman, my current special edition editor, read my book, and then she read the next one, which was Then There Was You as well, and approached my then editor at HQN as well as my agent, asking if I would like to write for special edition. And when she approached me, she was like, I basically want you to write what you're writing. Just do it in like 60,000 words instead of 90. So of course that's an incredible opportunity. And it's always nice when someone's like, I love what you wrote already. Do you want to do it for me? So that's kind of how I got started. And then, we talked through about doing a series and what would we want that series to be. And that's how we ended up with the Once Upon a Wedding series.
Great. So the Once Upon a Wedding, it's kind of its own world with the characters that are entwined. Did you create the world, or has the world evolved as you gone? What was the process for that?
I think for me, it was more of an evolution. I did create, so, I got some good advice from some really good mentors I have. And they said, if you're writing a series, you need to think a couple of books ahead with the characters that you have now. At least the next book, you want to kind of set that up. So introduce the characters. So in doing so, you do build that world. So for me, the world evolved book to book to book as I investigated different tropes, as I took different side characters and gave them a story. Sometimes I knew ahead of time who was going to get the next story. Sometimes that evolved as I'm writing this book. I'm like, oh, those two people need a story. And then that would be the next story or the story thereafter if I already had something else planned. So for me, being a like 80% pantser, definitely evolution is how it came to be.
Okay. Okay. Pantsers amaze me. I not my world at all, and that just amazes me. So what do you hope readers take away from your book? I felt great after reading it. It was just a happy experience.
That's literally it. You nailed it right there. And that's part of why I love writing romance. I love, if I could make somebody happy for 5 minutes if whatever, we have our things, but if you can escape with a book of mine for a little while and it takes you away and it makes you feel happy, then I think I've done my job. I mean, honestly, that's really what I'm after. So, if you keep reading my books, you'll see there aren't very many true villains in my books. Like even sort of the annoying quote unquote bad people have their motivations, they have their backstory, they have why they do the things that they do. Whether you redeem them or not is a different story, but mostly my books are about good people and I just try to make people happy.
And hungry.
I guess hungry is a side effect I hadn't seen coming. Yes.
Yeah. I was craving very specific dishes that whole couple days I was reading your book.
Awesome.
So you talked a little bit about not having really a bad guy, but have you ever had any characters that just like didn't evolve, or you were challenged by, or couldn't get because they were so unique?
I do, yes, I think a lot of my characters are like that. It takes me, that's why I'm a pantser, because it takes a really good amount of words on page, of writing, of hanging out with them, to really figure out who they are. My hardest characters to write were actually in my latest release, which was The Business Between Them. Those two characters were hard to write. They're tough, they're strong, and particularly Arena was, I had to redeem her from something that she had done in the book before. And she had her reasons, that kind of thing. But you want to give them that happily ever, and you want to see, like, maybe you would have done something similar in her situation. Maybe you would have, maybe you wouldn't have, but there was a reason why she did what she did. And so I think that sometimes can be, that was a very challenging book for me to write, to really get it so that they were both strong characters, but you still were rooting for them.
Okay. We talked a little bit before previously about realistic romances and stories that people won't believe when we talked about weddings. How do you find that balance between, making the romance believable, but still not the idealized version?
So I think I think about the people in my life who are actually not romance readers, and there's quite a few of them. And when I'm putting it down on paper, when I'm making the story, when I'm building the characters, I ask myself, would they believe this, right? And if the answer to myself is no, then that means I need to make it a little bit more realistic. Like, I need to make the reasons for people not being together or who they are a little bit more realistic. But then when it comes to sort of the romance part of it, I ask myself, as a romance reader and my romance reader friends, what are we looking for? We are looking for those kind of ooey gooey gushy moments that some more cynical readers are like, really like this. It's cute and it's romantic and you love it, you just don't want to admit it. So I think that's how I find my balance. I sort of look to the two sides of myself about, how much do I want to, like, how much realistic stuff do I want to suspend? That type of thing. And I do feel like if the characters are real, then that the ooey gooey stuff is more believable.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of, I like the mushy gushy, but I'm not going to admit that in public. So, can you share any memorable feedback you got from your readers? And does what you get as feedback or reviews influence what you write?
I don't think that what I get as feedback necessarily influences what I write, but it makes me feel good about what I am writing. A lot of the feedback is actually very similar to what you've been saying. The book was it made me so happy. I was hungry, that kind of thing. I love getting feedback from younger. They see readers who are like, I love being able to see myself. I love being able to see my food, at my customs and traditions, so that's kind of, that's always lovely, because when I was in my 20s, that wasn't available. And so it's nice to be able to kind of open that door a little bit. But yeah, like, so the good feedback, I don't know what the bad feedback is, because I read it and I just, because I can't really worry about that. But like, I will read some of the good feedback when I'm feeling a little low and I see that people really connected with certain characters. And I think that's what I really like to hear, is that a reader connected with a particular character. Even they may not connect with every character, right? And that's understandable. But and the one negative feedback I do actually listen to, interestingly enough, is when a person says they can't connect with a character. And it doesn't necessarily change things for me, because there's not always like a big critique about it, but I do understand that like everybody's not going to connect with everybody.
Mhm.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Do you have any advice you'd give for new romance authors starting out?
I mean, I would say that write what you like to read. So if you're writing something and you think that if you picked up this book not knowing that you had written it, would you want to read it? Like, would you enjoy it? Is there enough tension and that kind of thing? So I think that, and I obviously any new writer, I would say just keep writing, publish yourself, keep querying, whatever. But if this is what you want to do, then keep doing it.
And lastly, what have you have that's new or upcoming? I know that the business between them just came out, right?
Yes, but the business between them just came out about a month ago. And that is my very first enemies to lovers trope. So that is out in the world. It is book 4 in the series. Book 5 in the series is coming out in December. And that is the groom that was left behind. So book 3 is No Rings Attached, and that is my runaway bride. So the poor man who was sitting in the mandap wondering where she went gets his own story, and that's coming out in December. And I'm currently working on a novella as well as a book for an anniversary edition for next year.
Awesome. Awesome. A lot to look forward to. All right. I think that's all we have time for. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm very much looking forward to Coastal Magic. I forgot to mention in my intro that it is my first Coastal Magic. I've never been before, so I'm really excited.
Me
Uh,
too.
yep, I know it's your first one too, so I'm really excited to, be in Florida in February. That'll be great.
Yeah, me
And
too. On
and
the beach.
and on the beach and meet readers and fellow authors and everything. So I am really looking forward to seeing everybody, and hopefully have a few more books out by then.
Great. All right. So we're going to end it there, but take a moment if you're listening to this to check out all the links will be below on where you can connect with Mona and also where you can enter the Rafflecopter giveaway for 2 of her books that will be ending next Tuesday at midnight, which is the 25th. So take care, and I'll see you in person in February.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.